So, good morning, viewer. Good morning, listener. It's another, what will we call it, ominous Monday approaching and an ominous week. But we'll try to cheer you up with our words today, won't we, Pat?
Yeah,
Will we,
absolutely.
will we strike a
Absolutely.
merry tone and whistle an airy tune?
And every tune, if you do feel like singing, sing an Irish song.
How could you? I didn't think you were that old. If you can, if
Yeah,
you
the Walton program, remember?
Well, quote, but did they say they didn't
Uh,
say if you must sing, did they? I remember this.
I said,
If you
if you
must
no,
sing.
if you feel like singing, do sing an Irish song, isn't that it?
That is Irish song. I
Uh,
actually the songs that they played were useless. As I remember them, were nothing but killy bands and stuff. Whereas, I mean, there's some great Irish music now. Maybe it's just I've changed. Okay, let's go to some of the matters that are occurring on the political front. Now, it seems to be that almost exactly the same sort of thing has happened in Westminster as has happened in the Dáil or in Dublin. In Westminster, an MP called Andrew Gwynn, we're told, um, said on a WhatsApp group that he hoped a 72-year-old woman croaked it just
yeah,
because she asked a councillor who was in the same WhatsApp group about her bins. And Gwynn also said something about, what did he say? Um, this this WhatsApp group is called Trigger Me Timbers. That's a pretty good
yeah.
title, isn't it? Trigger Me Timbers. Uh, and they also joked about a constituent being mown down by a truck. And apparently he said sexist things about Angela Rayner and racist things about Diane Abbott. And he said of an American psychologist called Marshall Rosenberg that he sounded too militaristic and too Jewish, adding, "Is he in Mossad?" So he's got turfed out of the Labour Party.
Everybody?
Okay? Now,
Yeah.
one of the things that the Conservatives, keep this in mind, a Conservative Shadow Cabinet Minister, Alex Burghardt, has said, what did the other members of that WhatsApp group do in response to his remarks? Did anybody, as they say now, call him out? So we'll come back to that in a
Uh,
second. Here, on this side of the, oh no, well, actually still in, on the Westminster, Neil Coyle has been reinstated as a Labour MP after he was suspended. He was suspended last March for 5 days after a parliamentary probe found he'd made racist remarks towards a journalist, foul mouthed and drunken abuse also of a parliamentary assistant. Anyway, he's been reinstated. And over here in Dublin, Martin Conway, who is a Fine Gael senator, is it? I think it's senator.
yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah.
and he's visually impaired, partially blind, in other words. In the early hours of Tuesday, the 22nd of January, he was arrested by the Garda in O'Connell Street for being intoxicated in an intoxicated state due to consumption of sleeping tablets and alcohol, he said. He was arrested, brought to Store Street, and then released. And he's been dumped out of the party. Now, what's your reaction to any or all of those, Pat?
Yeah. By the way, you left out another Labour guy. I think he's called Oliver Ryan.
Oh,
He was
yes.
on he was in that WhatsApp group. He, I think, this morning or last night, he has issued an apology for any remarks that he may have made as well. So there's a sort of a growing WhatsApp group.
Wait a
Jude,
minute. Well, it's a
you know
great title, though,
the
Pat. It's a great title. Great title.
trigger me tumbers. But Jude, you know the golden rule, and I'm still amazed at how stupid people are. No, Jude, once you write something down, a record exists. Therefore, I can tell you to F off, and unless somebody's recorded it, there's not a hope in hell. It's
Yeah.
then you said, I said.
Uh,
Whereas if it's written down, and if you're an elected member, and I think this guy, what he called him, Gunn, wasn't he the health minister? He's been round the block. He should have
yeah,
known,
yeah. I think it was
that
health,
these
health
things.
minister. Yeah,
Was it health minister? Yeah,
I think
like,
so.
he's been round the block. It wasn't his first day in Parliament. These guys know that if you're in a WhatsApp group, there's always going to be somebody with an agenda to leak what you've said, and
Hmm.
I'm amazed. But anyway, you know the thing I think about it is a lot of these MPs sell themselves one way, saying this, saying that, and the other, but behind the scenes, they're very, very different. And
Hmm.
the Labour Party, the other thing as well, Jude, I see too, this thing about anti-Semitism. It's reached a stage now. If you say anything about anybody Jewish, it doesn't matter. If you said something about somebody Irish or somebody English, it wouldn't be a big issue. But if you say anything about anybody Jewish now in the Labour Party, it seems to be a hanging offence. So, I presume that's this whole thing about anti-Semitism, which Keir Starmer has a big thing about, seems to be one of the triggers for getting you chucked out of the Labour Party as well.
Well, look, take that WhatsApp group generally, and the
Yeah.
things that they did. There was uh, racist remarks. There was anti-Semite remarks. They think, and mocking a woman who was 72 years of age and hoping she could mow down by a truck. Do you
Mhm.
think that's grounds for kicking him out of the party?
I haven't seen the full remarks, but on the
Well, I've given you
surface,
a sprinkling of them now. Come on.
exactly. Dude, see, no, Dude, he shouldn't have said them. But and it was that's in bad taste, and maybe he should maybe get a slap in the wrist for it and suspended, but not for chucking them out. I don't know. Is he chucked out of the party totally, or is he
I think he's
suspended?
been chucked out of the party totally. I think he has.
Yeah.
Wait a minute now, I'll check and see. Well, Labour has vowed to punish any MP who has been caught up in this Andrew Gwynn scandal, this
Yeah.
WhatsApp group. And the Tories have weighed in there and said that, they really would want to look at what was anybody there in the WhatsApp group to call out Andrew Gwynn for the things he was saying. I'll tell you what I think, Pat. I think,
Right.
like you, that those remarks are not desirable. You don't want people abusing other people, whether in grounds of
Yeah.
race or
Mhm.
ethnicity or age or whatever.
Yeah.
But I really think it's overkill. It really is.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying that I go around all the time being racist and being sexist and all that,
Yeah.
so on. But I'm sure if people were to hear my conversation, and sometimes even our conversation, and the words we
Yeah.
use, they say, "Oh, it's disgusting." Would that be grounds for kicking us off a site, or if we were public representatives losing our job? I really don't think so. There's a danger, I think, that people will be afraid to open their mouths. The
Mhm.
speech they make, or the words they say, or the words they write down will be so, what would you call it, sanitized, that it'll be
Yeah.
totally phony. And as for this idea that the other people on the same WhatsApp group should have called out, as they say now, Andrew Gwynn, I really think that's taking things too far. If somebody
Yeah.
else decides to do something, I mightn't approve of it, but that's their affair, except to say something to me. I don't think my job is to go around policing the political correctness of a lot of people. What do you think?
Yeah. Jude, let's get this clear, and I'm deadly serious. This is not a joke. See the things me and you say on this podcast. If we were members of the political party, we would be chucked out a long time ago. And no, but what I'm saying is, you know, there's this sort of thing now. You have to be das white about everything. Like you have to be politically correct, and I think that's almost destroying free speech. Dude, if I make some remark like no, it's ridiculous. I'm going to use say some beautiful woman goes past, and I go, "Wasn't she beautiful?" That's enough now for me and you. Just oh, wait a minute, what right did you? That's sexist or whatever, and that's the level we're now at.
Well, Pat,
And by the way, I wrote a column in I read a column, and I noticed one day, and it was true, and I'll even give you the context. I was over at the school, and this beautiful wee Ukrainian girl, she's about 16 or 17, and she was sitting chatting, and she says, the only thing I want to do is go home. And I described her as this beautiful wee girl. And by the way, she was and all the rest, but they took out the word beautiful. I presume on the basis that they didn't want just this girl, and I understood why the sub editor did that and all the rest of it. But the fact remains, she was 16 or 7, she's stunningly beautiful wee girl. And I remember feeling terribly sorry for her because she's all I want to do, she says, is go home. And I was trying to put that in the context of what is, and that's the world we're living in now, Jude.
you're not allowed, Pat. You are not allowed. I make this as a general rule. You're not allowed, certainly at our age or your age, to comment on women's appearance. If you
Yeah.
comment in a negative way, you're certainly not allowed to do that, as I have found out.
Mhm.
Uh, if you comment in a positive way, as you have, that also isn't allowed because there are people, and this goes back quite a while, even before political correctness, where they would
yeah,
say, "You're an outflap. What are you looking at that girl for? What are you doing? You
mm,
think she's beautiful, you know?" So
yeah.
even to say they were beautiful, if you were to say, and she had beautiful legs, or my God, she had some
I will know.
figure,
Yeah, I can
that would
understand
be,
it, but it's, but hey, look at the thing too about your man that he was very militaristic and was he Jewish or something?
uh,
Jude, in other words, are we not entitled to sort of, there's a certain characteristic now, right now in the world that the Israelis seem to be bombing every which way around them. Like you could turn around and say, is he a Jewish supporter too? Because I think just the whole thing right now, you sort of said, no matter what you say, it seems to be incorrect.
well, I mean, the movie was Say Nothing. Say
Mm,
nothing. Let's
mm,
go across to this guy, Martin Conway, who was arrested by the guards in O'Connell Street for being drunk. I gathered he was in all fours at this stage. He says it was a combination of sleeping tablets and alcohol. I suspect strongly, it was outside the Gresham Hotel. I suspect strongly it was drink, basically. Tell me
mm.
this. Can you, are people, no, there must be. I never knew you could be arrested for just being drunk. Did you? Drunk and
We can, yeah,
disorderly is
you can,
another
yeah,
thing.
you can, yeah, you can be. In fact, as a young reporter, I mean, usually it was somebody that's drunk and incapable, so you're arrested for your own safety sometimes.
Oh, really?
And secondly, maybe if you're drunk and you're staggering,
Aye.
you can't. Well, there's a possibility some cops might think, well, but this guy's a danger, if not even to himself, to anybody he bumps into, type thing. So they can arrest you. Oh, there's simple. They can be arrested for simple drunkenness. Yep, definitely.
But I am really surprised at that. Well, supposing you got drunk in your home, would a guard have a right to come into your home and
No,
say,
no, 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 no. It's in a public place.
well, supposing you were out in the front garden and there was a road going past you and people were there
Yeah.
and you were pissed, would that be arrestable?
No, not unless you did something.
You see, that's my point. That's my point.
It's the public place, Jude. You,
Well,
you, you can only be arrested as far as I am. Now, I am no lawyer, so don't accept my word for it. But
hmm.
my understanding is that you have to be in a public place and drunk. Now, in your own home, that's your affair. That's
Well,
private.
what about an hotel? There's an hotel, just Boswell's Hotel across from the Dall.
Yeah. I've visited
I
many
mean, that's a
cities.
place where, well known for years, decades, where TDs and
Yeah,
senators drank, and
yeah,
journalists. And
yeah.
supposing you got pissed in Boswell's Hotel, would that be arrestable?
No, not unless you did something.
Jesus. I just think the idea of somebody being arrested, even released immediately after a number of hours, and then thrown out of the party does seem to me overkill.
But you see, we don't know, like this announcement. You don't know, was he speaking? Was he doing something that wasn't quite in keeping with the background here? Just that all he's saying that it was. It seemed that he was drunk and he says himself on alcohol and sleeping tablets. Now, and it was, if he's on all fours, and maybe when the guards went to arrest him, something happened,
Hmm.
or went to help him or something. You don't know the circumstances.
Well,
And there's no
uh,
point in us sort of on the basis that we could say something maybe libelous about the man. I don't know. But
uh,
the point is, he's been thrown out of Finn Gael. And
uh,
it goes to shows that politicians are humans like everybody else.
well, I also think uh, political parties are pretty damn ruthless when it comes to slinging somebody out. I mean, Andrew Gwynn
Yeah,
was health minister, and as far as I can understand, he's gone. And
yeah,
this guy, Martin Conway, has been a senator for ages. He's
yeah.
gone. Uh,
Mm,
uh, we know that Starmer is a ruthless guy. He destroyed the career of Jeremy Corbyn. Uh,
yeah,
I just, and you see this, there are people who would tell you, for example, in the Catholic Church, that if ever there's a whiff of somebody saying that so and such a priest, did something, touched a girl or something, that immediately the church detaches themselves from them. You
yeah,
look after yourself, mate. You're being hung out to dry. You sort it. I just feel that that's sort of contrary to every concept of kindness and loyalty and, investigating the state of affairs before you say
yeah,
this guy is a bad guy and we don't want him.
yeah,
We've
yeah.
seen it. We've seen the same thing actually in the case of Sinn Féin, and at least one person's behalf,
Yeah.
and that was Barry Michael Duff. I thought Barry Michael Duff
Mm.
was kicked out, and it seems to me it was an injustice because there
Mm.
wasn't sufficient consideration. And I think the people who threw him out knew it was an injustice.
Uh, but anyway, can we move on a wee bit just as you talk about?
You're
Right.
changing the topic, Pat. You're not going to.
No, it was just no. It's follow. On Friday, the Taoiseach and Harris announced the names of the new senators, and
Aye.
one of your man Ian Marshall, who's a farmer, he lost out. He stood again. He was the first unionist elected to, in the Republic. He was elected in what 2018 to the
Was he
Senate.
not nominated
And
by Pat? Was he not nominated by the Taoiseach?
He might have been, yeah, and he
Think
stood
so.
for election then, and he lost his seat. But
Yes.
anyway, he didn't get elected this time. But
Mhm.
the other thing as well, I had a laugh. There's a girl, she's a sports presenter called Ivan Cullen,
Yes.
and she was presenting, I think, something on Thursday. Was it Thursday night? She was on the news giving a sports report, and at 12:30 or 1 o'clock on Friday, it was announced she was a new senator for I think Finn Gael. So I thought to myself, you know, Mary Hall Martin and Harris keep talking about reaching out and all the rest of it. But surely they should have said to Ian Marshall, "Hey, you're one of our nominations." No, just even for the unionist community. You know, what's your opinion on the fact that they give it to a sports presenter in RT round, Ian Marshall?
Well, I think this idea of giving sports people, there used to be a time when sports people sailed in to be TDs. And they
Yeah,
sometimes
Jack
that
Lynch being a prime
ran
example.
through
Yeah,
the family afterwards, even when they
yeah,
weren't
yeah, yeah.
particularly sporty. Um, well, I did an interview with Ian Marshall after he'd been nominated, and he was quite chuffed. And he was saying that he said to Leo Varadkar, um, "Am I the token prod?" or words to that effect, and he was assured that that wasn't the case.
Mm-hmm.
I can see the point. You see, Connor Murphy said that there was
Yeah,
a disgraceful. They should have had included in the Taoiseach's nominations for the Seanad. There should have been a unionist representative, so we could have this more normalising of all Ireland
yeah.
relationships. So I sort of went with that, and then I thought about it and said, well, Ian Marshall was a Seanad member. What did he do? What difference did it make? And I
Well,
have to say,
I
I
can't
don't think
answer.
there was any difference.
I think on occasion that he sort of within the confines of the halls of residence in the Senate, I presume he brought a different perspective and made people aware of some of the things that were happening in the North and views. He helped educate people about some of the realities from the
Uh,
Northern Union experience. Within maybe that shapes all of you. What do any of us do when we talk to each other? Do we shape other people's views?
no, well, I'm not talking. I'm talking about the speaking in the Seanad. Um,
Yeah.
Now, maybe Ian Marshall has spoken in the Seanad and spoke very well and so on, in which case I would approve that completely. But I would say, by and large, in the public mind, Ian Marshall's couple of years or 3 years or 4 years or whatever in the Seanad meant virtually nothing. They might have seen the headline, unionist, uh,
Yeah.
former president of the Farmers Union or whatever has been
Yeah.
appointed to the Dáil. And I think that's a good thing in general, but you wouldn't want to overblow it. And
No, no, I'm not overblown. No.
I think, we try to say, oh, I know the Fine Gael want people to say, oh, aren't you wonderful? You're clearly in
Yeah.
favor of, good relationships with maybe even a united Ireland.
Yeah.
If that's what they want, why don't they give uh, MPs and MLAs speaking rights in the Dáil?
Mm.
Why don't they
Yeah.
allow the people in the north to vote for the president of Ireland? I mean, if you want
Mm.
to make something that's going to be a bold step, make a bold step. I just think this squeezing in the occasional, and it was, in my opinion, a token prod, as Ian Marshall suspected, uh,
Mm.
was inserted into the Dáil, and here he is now. He wasn't appointed by Micheál Martin, who, of course, would insist that he's doing everything he can to further good relationships between unionists and nationalists.
Yeah, well, another thing about it, I thought it was a wee bit hypocritical. I've listened to both Harris and particularly Micheál Martin about reaching out and all that sort of stuff.
Mm.
When I saw on Saturday that Ian Marshall had lost his seat or didn't get re-elected, and then Vanya Cullen had been, I thought, they talk the talk, but rarely walk the walk, and it just struck me as another example. Like, let's be honest. I suppose really what I'm getting at. They really don't give a shit about the North. They really don't. If you want to boil it down, there's a lot of tokenism about reaching out and the shared island and all this sort of stuff. I think Brian Finney. I didn't actually see the article.
Yes, yes.
Well, maybe you'd talk more
Yes,
about that.
I
But
read
like,
that one.
he's just another person saying that, like we've all me and you've been saying, they're not preparing for it. Know that thing. Just one point. Know that thing we were last week about the poll about the growth in the number of people in the north.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody make about a decision about what they would or would not agree to when they don't know what the terms that they're being presented of.
Exactly, exactly. But I thought Finney made a good point. He said, that Fine Gael, Fianna Fáil would say, be very careful. Well, you want to have reconciliation and you don't want to be doing things that will upset unionism and alienate them further. Uh,
Yeah,
but he pointed out also, of course, that they don't want them to they don't want to do anything that might have an All Ireland sort of smell to it, because if it was an All Ireland, it would really just shatter the whole system, honoured
yeah,
by 100 years in the Dáil. I mean, really
yeah,
would totally change Irish politics. And they don't want it
yeah.
to do. They don't want that to
That's
happen.
all.
They are now in the happy
Mm,
position where it looks like they've got a majority between the two of them that nobody will be able to crack. I mean, all they've got to
yeah.
do is say, we won't do whatever Sinn Féin in, and forever, as far as we can see, it's going to be Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil. You
Yeah,
think?
and Jim, it always comes down to this one. Well, no, this thing that they come out with, this ridiculous thing. We would be better off making sure that Northern Ireland works properly before we start. I think, in other words, until the last unionist agrees, we will do nothing. That is the most, the recipe, and it's so cynical. We're never going to rattle any cages or anything like that might upset anybody, because we don't want to, because we couldn't really be arsed, and we don't want the hassle, and and as well as that, we have a nice little setup down. We've got now more seats, and we have 9 independents, and we can do whatever the hell we want, and we don't even need to do the token prod from the north anymore. Jesus, Jude, you'd think they could have made one northerner a senator.
Yeah, yeah. Would you like to be a senator, Pat?
If they offered me the job, yeah.
Huh? You
They're
what?
never going to offer me the job, Jude. So
No,
that's
but
an
supposing they
irrelevance.
did,
Hey,
supposing they
hey,
did,
hold on,
Pat.
Jude. Let me say, hey, Jude, it's what is the 100 something thousand a year? It's you go up there. It's a talking shop. You're not like a TD or an MP.
Yeah.
It's a sort of an intellectual pursuit. It's a sort of a chamber that examines and sort of where they bring in, like, Jude, other than maybe David Norris and what do you call her, Mary former president Mary Robinson. They're about the only two people ever, I think, from the Senate. And Norris used to, apparently, I remember he was sitting beside a certain person I knew one day, and he said something outrageous, and he says, that'll be good for the morning papers. So he wanted to make a name for himself. He did.
Those were the days whenever you could say stuff outrageous just for the sake of it. But
Yeah,
Pat, you haven't
just for the
answered my
sake of it.
question. If you were offered a job as a senator, the senator from uh, Donegal,
I don't think, oh, absolutely, I'll take it,
would you take
surely.
it? Would you take it?
I'm easily bought, Jude.
Would you find it enjoyable, I wonder? I think I'd be bored out of my mind, tell you the truth.
Well, you see, that's the problem. Jude, I was a young reporter. I worked in RT, and I was sent down to cover the Dáil. And Jude, the second choice would have been to sit in a funeral parlor. It was so boring. It really was. In fact, probably the boy in the coffin would have more life than some of the senators. It was unbelievably boring.
How do you really feel about it, Pat?
So now that was a
I
long
mean,
time
I've
ago.
never spent any time. I've never been in the Dáil when the session was on, but I can
Uh,
well believe it from the clips I see on TV. My God, there's some not. I'm going to say
uh,
stupid, not necessarily stupid, very, very intelligent, maybe very cunning, certainly.
yeah.
Uh, but God, I don't want to hear them. Okay, let's move over sideways to from politics to sport. This guy, John Cooney. from
Oh
Galway,
God.
who was
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
boxing in Belfast about a fortnight
Yeah.
ago, developed a brain hemorrhage and has died. Now, should boxing be banned?
Jude, I've long held the view, both boxing and what do you call that other one, cage fighting. Jude, I have a serious issue about them. In fact, the Queensberry rules for a long time had some sort of guidelines for boxing.
Hmm.
But when you watch cage fighting, they punch, the elbows, they kick, and all the rest of it. And Jude, I think we're going back the ways. To answer your question, yeah, Jude, some some guy knocking nine bells out of each other for public entertainment strikes me as a form of barbarism.
Well, when you hear of somebody dying like that, it does sound bloody awful. But
Yeah,
on the other hand, it's very exciting. I
yeah,
was aboard in St. Columns, two guys started thumping each other. The cry would go up, fight, 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 and we would rush to the place where the fight was because it was very exciting to see two guys trying to hit each other. So that's the reason it's very popular. But then I was a stupid little child then. I'm a stupid old man. I tend to agree with you. I mean, aren't all amateur boxers forced to wear this headgear now, or is it,
headgear. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
which should help?
Jude, when you consider the fact that you get getting punched in the head, repeatedly for whatever 10 rounds or
Or
whatever.
the body,
Jude,
or the
look,
body.
remember they used to call old boxers punch drunk.
Aye.
They weren't punch drunk at all. They were concussed, permanent concussion, and or whatever head injury. Jude, I was watching the rugby yesterday,
Mm.
and two Scottish guys, Finn Russell, and I can't remember the other guy. I think his name might have been Graham. Bumped into each other, knocked, and one of them was flat out. Now they're both taken off, and even though Russell, the fly half or scrum half, he passed the HIA, the head injury assessment. They
Hmm.
wouldn't let him back on again. Boxing, Jude, they're allowed to punch you as hard as they can. Now, can you imagine? Mike Tyson, Jude, was about 6 foot tall, as squat as a gorilla, was apparently a punching power that was second to none,
Mm.
and and he was super fast. It was like getting hit on the side of the face with a sledgehammer, and yet,
Okay,
Jude, that's legal.
okay. So let's say we ban boxing. What about rugby? You mentioned rugby.
Yeah,
You ban it,
exactly. And there's a guy, what's his name? George, what he used to be on the radio. He was a big George Hook. George Hook says,
oh yeah, yeah,
yeah, he was a controversial guy, big rugby man. But
yeah.
he said now that if he had children, he wouldn't allow them to play rugby. He says the size of the people on the. My son went to Strawberry Hill, and he's average size. He says that I was one day down at a rugby match, and he says I was by far the smallest person. He says by far. He says Martin Johnson was there, and he's about 6'9", but he says he's also about the size of the gable wall of a house. These boys are huge.
Yeah. Would you'd ban it then? So you ban boxing, ban rugby. What about
I
soccer?
don't know about banning rugby. No, there's at least there's some rules in rugby, Jude.
Oh,
But
Pat,
punching somebody directly, yeah,
Jesus,
I
I
know,
love you.
Jude.
I
But
know
I
that.
like no. But there's a big difference between punching somebody full in the face, and sort of playing a contact sport.
But we're talking about a sport that's going to result in life-changing injuries or maybe death even. And I mean, you look at those rucks. My God, you look at the way these rugby players have worked their muscles and their necks and all. It's sort of
Yeah,
deformed to some extent, in my opinion.
yeah.
It really is. I would never want a child of mine to play rugby. Never,
No, no,
never.
I wouldn't want mine
Now, what
either.
about
Yeah.
soccer? What about soccer?
What's your name? Jeff
Or
Aspel, the
Gaelic?
famous, he died from dementia. They reckon from directly
Yeah,
from hitting the ball,
yeah,
and he got dementia in his 50s.
yeah.
There's the number in America, the number of American footballers who have the same punch drunk. I don't know, what do you call it? Alzheimer's? Do you call it dementia? What's the term? I don't know
One of the
what's the term.
two. I'm not
Yeah,
sure what the distinction
yeah.
is, but they're pretty much
Yeah,
the
well,
same thing.
apparently the number of American footballers that have developed these conditions very early is directly attributable to their footballing career. So maybe all sports carry that sort of risk, but I think
Well,
you,
no,
you
they
have to
don't,
sort of.
Pat.
Yeah,
They don't.
I think boxing must be way at the top end
That's
at
right.
cage fighting.
But I think if
Yeah,
you're going to be logical, I think you have to say things, sports that endanger people, through violent contact should be banned. And I would say if you ban boxing, you should be also banning rugby and probably soccer, certainly as long as they're hitting the ball. And even when they're not, you see the speed at which guys hit each other when they're going for a
uh,
ball together. My God, no wonder guys are out for months on end. Or that guy Rodri, for
yeah,
example, who plays for Man City, he's out all
yeah,
season because of an
yeah,
injury. So it's hard. I mean, there are sports where that doesn't happen. I mean, there are
yeah,
sports like if you think of Olympic Games, all the races, all the track events, high jump,
yeah.
long jump, all those things.
They're
Loads
not,
of
non no contact like
yes,
tennis,
exactly. And
swimming,
maybe we should be thinking
athletics.
about that, don't you think? Or would
Yeah.
that ruin our weekends?
If you ban boxing, it'll go underground like it did years ago.
I think.
And it's remember there used to be bare knuckle fighting.
Uh,
In fact, I think there was about 10 or 15 years ago around here. There was a couple of sort of underground fights,
oh,
bare
really?
knuckle fights. Yeah,
Jesus. I bet they drew a good crowd too.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, you wouldn't believe it.
Mm. Well,
And
there
so
was
on.
wasn't
So
there the famous Fight Club that was a movie, and it was a very good movie too, where guys wanted to get some excitement into their lives. Their lives were very ordinary and so on. So that they had these bare knuckle fights and they beat the
yeah,
crap out of each
bare
other.
knuckle fights.
Does
That's
that
what I'm talking about.
does that make sense to you, Pat? I mean, do you think those
What?
people are deranged in the first instance that they want to do?
Absolutely. There's adrenaline junkies. Dude, about 10 years ago, I saw a guy on a mountain pass, and I'd say it was about 6, 7 inches type thing. And he was riding a bike. And if you, either way, even if he was going to drop about 1,000 feet, now, nobody in their right mind would have done that.
Mm.
No, I think it was somewhere in the Andes or somewhere. It was a mountain pass, and it was just like about a foot roadway of either side. And either side, even if the one came, he was going to go. You go. Why would anybody in their right mind do that?
But don't forget, finally, we've just got seconds left. What about motorbike racing, Joey Dunlop, etc.? I mean, there are families up there who seem to actually are very, very proud of the fact that a member of their family was so good that he died.
Yeah.
I just think that's
Look,
tragic.
that whole Dunlop family,
Yeah,
they've been absolutely riven by tragedy. Like there's three or four of
but
them. Yet,
none of them.
and yet, I think it's so part of their tradition and all the
Yes,
rest. Now,
yes.
Jude, what a horrible price they paid for it.
Ah, incredible. I'm going out to pluck some daisies now and to walk very carefully along the sidewalk.
Uh, uh,
Okay. Right, Pat.
okay, Jude.
Thank you very
Good
much.
luck.
See
Bye,
you.
bye,
Enjoy
Jude.
your
See you
week, my
later.
man.
Bye,
Enjoy your week. And I'll
bye.
try to
See you
save this
Friday.
one.